Hello, welcome to today's video. This is the last series of videos of kind of how to do stuff with your Black Sea ships. Now today we're going to go over the flags. In specific, we're going to deal with the flag at the top of the mast, top of the main mast, and really any other top, and then the actual national flag that would be in the off the gaff boom, or potentially a flagstaff. I'll show you that in a second too. Alright, so stay tuned and we'll take a look at what we need. Alright, so here is my large merchant ship. Now I started with the how-to and the sails. I decided to complete the rigging but not do the other sails, so it'll be easier for you to see these next steps with the flags. We're going to be doing two flags today. The first flag, I have not done the backstays on this, again, just to kind of keep it uncluttered. So you can do the flags before and after, but so we're going to do two flags. We're going to do a flag that's mounted from the top here, and a flag from this the gaff flag line. All right. First, a note on flags. When you're dealing with merchant ships, they're going to have obviously this is going to be Spanish, so we're going to be using the Spanish merchant's flag, and this will be the only kind of flag it'll carry. If you're dealing with a warship, warships would also include flying at on their top mast a pennant for the representing the nation. So you're going to see warships actually have the pennant. Now, a privateer could also be flying that pennant. Now, another note on flags, you might have to do some research on your specific navy. Now, this is definitely for the Spanish Navy. You can see there's the national flag in the rear, the pennant up here at the top, and then finally there's a flag here on the front mast. This flag represents the fact that there is an admiral on board this, and this is his ship. So the captain is not the captain is on the ship, but there is a higher ranking officer, and in this particular case it's another admiral. So it is the actual flagship of that particular fleet. So just little notes. So you can put flags up here as well. It's all entirely up to you. Just some tips from a historical perspective. All right. Now, one thing we're going to do on the merchant ship is we're going to actually use a flag off this that's on a gaff line. But I decided to do for my Spanish fleet actual flagstaffs, so that should they ever strike their colors, I can always actually remove the flag and leave the ship out there. That's just me. I just thought it would be kind of cool. But for historical purposes, now during the period of the American Revolution, that would have been 1770s, early 1780s. The actual ships actually still flew their national flags on flagstaffs. After that, more and more ships began to actually run them on a gaff line instead. But some ships still had them, even in the early 1800s, had them on a flagstaff. All ships did have a flagstaff, it seems, based on the research I've done so far, so that in port they could actually put the flag on a flagstaff instead of actually having the gaff line have the flag on it. So just a little historical tip. All right, so let's start with the main flag you're going to want. It's always the one in the back here, the national flag. Very, very easy to do flags. You cut out the one you want, and this is where your kindergarten training helps get as close to the lines as possible. Now I noticed here I've got a little bit of white showing on the side, so I'm going to just trim that a bit. Okay, and literally you fold it in half. You don't have to be too careful. You do need to be careful enough that the white is obscured on both sides. So, all right, and now it's a V. Now what I like to do is pinch the rear, and then pinch the very front, and then push at an angle together with a slight twist, fold in on itself like that, and now I've got some waviness to the flag. Okay? Alright. Now, you can use, I prefer using white glue to do this, or PVA, but you can do it with super glue as well. Since I had a complete mind blank this morning, I completely forgot to bring my PVA, which was sitting right next to my modeling equipment. So silly me. We're going to use super glue today. Now again, I prefer to use a slower setting, thicker gel, so use whatever you like. But what you're going to do is fill 1/2 of the flag surface and the inside with a little bit of super glue, just enough, or PVA. Then you're going to wrap it around the staff and then pinch it shut and then hold it in place until it's dry. Now you can, I should say until it's tacky, because once it can support itself, then you can definitely just go ahead and leave it, just leave it hanging until it completely dries. Alright, so let's go ahead and we're going to do that. Starting with, put a little bit of glue. And the key is, if you're going to put the glue anywhere, it needs to be up against that V crease, because that's where it's going to actually hold on to the line. Alrighty. Okay. And hold it, pinch it together. This may take a couple hands here. And then just hold it until it's dry, or is tacky enough. Now, it doesn't need to be all the way at the top. It can be, but it needs to be as close to it as you are comfortable, because you want to have it, kind of flapping in the breeze, so to speak. In the case of gaff sails on most of your warships, it's going to be to the right of the sail, but on the merchant ships, it's going to actually be to the left of the sail. So make sure you mount it that way. And you can still see there's a little bit of a ripple in it. Once the glue's dry, or even while it's drying, especially with the PVA, you can reshape it and get some more waviness into that. And then now you've got your flag mounted. It really is that simple. Now, on the top, this is a little different. Alright, so let's take a look at the pennant here. This is my first attempt at doing pennants. I did what I thought was the easy way. Well, unfortunately, I don't like the way it looks. It's not correct in a sense. You'll notice on the Spanish pennant, there's the coat of arms, and that should be in front of the flagstaff, because of course the flagstaff, you don't actually wrap a flag around the flagstaff. It's on a line. So that's what I'm going to do today. Whether you use a pennant or another type of flag, you're going to go ahead and we're going to use an actual running line. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to tie your thread to the very top of the mast, right above that yard arm. Again, now this is best done after you've done all the other rigging, simply because you're going to get a better looking result, because no rigging will get in the way of the way the flag looks. So I'm going to just simply on the top here place the loop so that the knot is in front of the mast. That's very, very important. Okay. And I actually like using a 2F hitches. If you take a look at my first basics of rigging video, you can see what knots you would normally be using here. Okay. And so, whoops. Alright, now that I've got that on there real tight, real nice and tight. Okay. I am going to make sure, using my tweezers, make sure it's seated as far down as it can go. Okay. And then I'm going to use, make sure my thread is actually in front. And then using the needle, apply some super glue to that knot and the line behind so that it stays there on the mast. And if you feel need to, you can always take the tweezers after the glue is applied and just push it down and make sure it's where it needs to be. And then let that dry for a bit. When you, just like you did when you applied the flag to the flagstaff and back, or the flag line in the stern of the ship, you, again, just fold the small flag in half. Try to make sure there's no white showing on the borders. See if we can get that to focus. There we go. Okay. And if there is, you can trim it, because this looks like one side's a little longer than the other. Oh yeah, that's exactly what happened. So, just very carefully cut the white away. Okay. Now, what I like to do, like I said before, is pinch right where the line is going to be, and then pinch right where at the very front of it, and then press them together at an angle. I kind of like to twist slightly to get a kind of a wavy flag effect. Okay, and then you can open it back up. Alright, now the small flags and the pennants, you definitely need to use PVA. You can't use super glue. It's just not going to work on such a small surface, especially with the way you want to get some rippling effects going on. So I went home and got myself the PVA that I forgot, and we're going to go ahead and apply. So let's back up just a bit here. Now, like before, be sure you're going to line it up so that you put it on right side up and not upside down. You're going to place just a dab of glue in the middle of the flag. There we go. Don't worry about being too much. You can also always use your needle or even the tip of your scissors to move some of that PVA into the crease where the thread will be, because you'll want it to be firmly affixed to the line. Okay. Then, holding the string, you're going to actually want to place the flag. Because the flag is actually a little bit larger than that top flagstaff. In several of the ships it is. You're going to want to make sure that you let the line run down first before you go back up. So you're not actually going to bring it right up to the flag, right up to where the mast is. You're going to let it sit out a little further forward. So let's go ahead and put it on there. And then holding it closed, press it up against the flag, up against the mast, and then hold it. That way you'll know how far at the bottom, how much slack in the line you want to leave, because you're going to want it to the top of this, you want to be able to tie it around the top of the flagstaff. So if you can see, I'm going to pinch this tight. You can see how much space there is at the bottom. There's quite a bit, which is perfectly fine because that actually makes it easier for you to tie the flag on at the end, at the top. So again, here's while the glue is wet, you can again just kind of wrinkle the flag up and then leave her dry for a bit, and then we'll come back when that's dry. Alright, that's one of the drawbacks of PVA, is it does take a little longer to dry. But now that we've gotten that, now we're ready to affix the line to the top of the sail, or top of the mast. And the best way to do that is to hold on to the thread, and you're going to turn it so that the tag line, the end, is actually, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this because we don't need all this line. I'm going to get one of my little clips to make it easier to handle. Alright, now making this, the easiest way to do this is to turn this loop, go up and down, turn it so that you end up putting creating a loop. You just turn it 180 degrees with the tag end behind the line to the flag, and then you hold your thumb or finger on top of the mast, and then you pull this tight until it stops, because then that will fix to the top of the mast. Oop, and it just slipped off. So again, there, turn it over so that the tag end is behind the line of the flag, and put it down on the mast head, pull it tight, and then take the line and run it over the top. This is going to help hold it down, okay? Because this way it won't, it's because it wants to slip off the top. Well, this will prevent that from happening. But now you'll be able to put some pressure on the line. Let's go ahead and I'll zoom that in a little bit closer. Now, you can take your glue, and again, the super glue is the best in this case, and you can apply a dab, and you can use a needle, or you can, like I'm doing here, put the bead right on top of the mast, because I want to essentially lacquer the entire set of thread there, and then we'll hold it in place and just leave that to dry. Now, this, the same thing, the same applies to the pennant, because again, it's now on some ships, such as this one here. This we'll take a look at the my third rate. Its pennant, you can see there's plenty of room on that top mast, so it's easy to fit that in. And of course on a third rate, it's got a larger top mast section, so you can even fit a regular flag pretty well. But on the frigate, it is a little bit tighter, it's a little bit smaller. So even the small flag is going to be, sorry, not the frigate, this is the merchant ship, the large merchant ship. On a frigate, again, because the frigates, the warships, are the ones that actually do have pennants, even the warship, the frigate, is small enough. You can see it fits on the masthead perfectly. Now again, this is how it shows in all the instructions, wrapping around the mast, and you can see it doesn't quite look as good as when you use it. Here, I'll bring the third rate back in. You can see the third rate now. The pennant is more free. Okay? Alright, so back to the merchant ship. Now we've got the flag in place. Now you can actually do another half hitch, which is going to be round. Again, pressing it on top. This just helps hold it in place. And I can see that I can feel that the glue isn't completely dry. Remember, this is my slow-acting zap glue. It's thick, it's slow-acting, and so I was able to cinch that knot, that little slip knot, right down onto very damp glue, and that kind of helped push it into the fibers. And I'm going to go ahead and top it off again with a little bit of glue to help anchor that in place. Okay, there we go. Now, I'm going to cut this off real quick, trim it, and we're done. Now, a couple things I want to point out. Excuse me. Ideally, when you run the flag mast, if you're using the multiple size rigging examples from my extreme rigging video, you can actually use a even thinner thread, thinner tan thread, to run your flag lines. It looks a little bit better. It'll be a little easier. It won't show up as much on the mast as a knot because it's much thinner. One way to make it a little better. Now, Warlord Games also includes another flag type in their kit. So let's take a quick look at that. It's down here in the corner. There's a couple different sizes. This is the frigate and brig and third rate sheet, and it actually has a few different sizes of these flags. These are actually signal flags used by Royal Navy, and they actually represent a certain number, each of the 10 flags. And those flags would be risen in sets, 3 or 4 digits, and those would correspond to a word or phrase in a code book. And that's how the signal flags work. Well, in this, if you were actually use the signal flags to scale on these ships, they'd be almost impossible to really work with because they'd be so tiny. But the signal flags are what used to identify different ships in your fleet that are the same type, that have no other way of, you have no way of discerning. So like a brig is a good example. All brigs ships look identical. So the only way to discern them is to put a different flag in each of them. And in the kit, they actually give little counters for these different flags to help you, identify which one's which. Here's a picture of the flag as mounted on Warlord's picture. You can see how it's usually off the front of the sail, the rigging, first front rigging toward the bowsprit. Now, some of these are really tiny, which is good because you want to use the smallest ones you can. Some are a little bit larger. So on the merchant one, they've also, they've come with two sizes, and you can always, I would suggest going with the smaller one. It just looks a little better. And those you can run in place your choice, either where Warlord suggests, which would be up on, one of the lines up here, or you could even run it off the front or rear mast, your choice. Whatever looks good to you. Because again, this is not a historic flag. This is for game purposes, right? So you don't need to be really exact about it. It goes to what looks best for you. But I would still recommend you use the same techniques we did for this top flag. Take the flag fold in half, crimp it so that you get a little waviness to it. Then, using the white glue, we'll just assume you're going to put it on the front line here, put the white glue on the flag, wrap it underneath the front line, just the front one, and then crimp it together, and you've got your flag mounted to that one line. So it's a nice way of adding it. It looks good, and again, it's easy because it's out front. It's easy to tell which ships which when it comes to allocating damage and keeping track of which ship is, having what conditions on it, especially when you apply upgrades or you get special damage restrictions as a result. So hopefully this was helpful in mounting flags. If you got any ideas, suggestions, or comments, go ahead and leave them below. And until next video, I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.